7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order of the Town of Arundel Budget Board and Town Selectmen meeting. First item is approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? None? And move on to approval of the minutes from 1/24/18.
Second.
Motion made, second to go forward with the approval of the minutes. All those in favor? All those opposed? None? All right. Moving right along. Going to section 4A, budget review, public works. Floor over to Roger.
What's your pleasure? You wanna do the regular operating budget first?
I would suggest that we do, yeah. Roger and I have spoken about this. The budget you have in front of you has a final balance of $733,888. The discussions I had with Roger, he didn't have any objections to the number at the end of the budget. But he had some changes that he was gonna propose in terms of the use of the money and where it was going to be allocated, so. Did everybody bring their sheets from last week on that budget? If you haven't, I can make a couple copies and we can have it. We're all set? So, Raj, would you go ahead?
Well, if you wanna go line to line down through, I mean.
I would,
Any questions or however they wanna.
yeah, I would go to the places where you're going to make some proposed
Yeah.
changes from what this is presented here and just explain why.
The only two changes we had was in the fuel line and operating supplies. I've changed, and gallonage wise, I checked on that today, and we were actually, I usually budget for, based on 4,000 gallons in the summertime operations. Same in the winter, for a total of 8,000 gallons, times what we were budgeting was $4 a gallon. And I know we caught a little flack for that last year. Right now, we're actually paying $2.62 a gallon. So what I did was reduce that to $3.50 a gallon, because again, we're talking 18 months from now. So reduce it down to $3.50 a gallon, so that brings it to a total of 28,000, still based on the same amount of gallons. And took the additional 4,000 and put it in supplies because we're having a hard time keeping up with the price of salt.
Operating supplies, Roger?
Switching 4,000 from the fuel line from 32 down to 28,
Yeah.
and moving that additional 4 up to the supply line, which would change that from 706.94 to 746.94. Just adding the $4,000 from fuel. Just trying to keep those lines from overrunning. Our actual gallonage on fuel, we're actually, we've got a little bit of history on it, and last year from July 1, 2016 through the end was a total of 12,000 gallons. Some of that's the fire department, some's rec. But about 2,000 of it was fire department, and less than 500 was rec, so. So we're actually using about 10,000 gallons. The only reason we got away with it was because we had budgeted a little extra.
But you're still budgeting just for 8, Rod?
Yeah, because I think there's a little glitch in the system. It's, the system is, that 12,000 gallons is actual invoices for those time frames from Champagne's. That gallons used. Rec fuel's up there, fire department fuel's up there, and obviously we do. So, I'd like to think but maybe it's not getting written down. When it doesn't, guess who pays for it? So, I don't know that, and I don't know any way of putting a fancy system in there so that everybody knows exactly what they're using, but you're spending X number of dollars to update a system to come back all out of the same pot anyway. So I guess that's an internal struggle with us, maybe, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel.
So you just can't identify who's using it.
We know how many gallons is used, we know how much the fire department, there's a sheet, when they fuel up, right inside the shed, they get fuel 24/7.
Mm.
As a single wreck. If she's got a weekend trip for after hours or something, she can fuel up anytime.
Mhm.
And she used 446 gallons or something like that, which is about in line with before. So, again, there's a little internal thing we gotta work on. I didn't think we were using that much fuel. So we're gonna try to work between the three departments and see if we can come up with a better way to track it.
Basically, the increases on this, for 2019 budget compared to 2018 budget, basically just salaries, part-time.
2.5%.
Salaries, insurance.
Increase
Yeah.
reflected. Okay.
Yeah, everything else is pretty well stayed the same at this point. The only other one that really concerns me a lot, and Roger and I have chatted very briefly about it, are the street lights and traffic lights. As I reported out, we had a substantial difference in quality of lighting that went in up on 111, and we've got that rectified. But as these lights come online, or if we're successful in having one installed at New Road, then we'll have to assume the responsibility of that traffic light, and then that will maybe an additional cost. So, and I know that the state, and I don't think we have anything to do with it, the state's gonna be renewing or redoing the traffic light at Route 1 in Cabot.
One on Log Cabin Road, they're also talking about in their plan redoing something at that intersection of Limerick Road and Route 1.
Yeah.
Trying to skew it a little different or something.
So I think we're okay right now, but we'll just.
There's
we'll keep
traffic
an eye-
signals, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
How many streetlights do we have?
I believe it's 27, they're split up between CMP and Kennebunk Lake Power, and the last I knew, Lake Power had 9. 27 total.
I'm happy you knew that, because I didn't.
That question might have
I knew
come
there
up
was a
once or
reason.
twice.
Yeah, I
before.
I knew there was a reason
think I
why
asked
you
that last year.
We ask that every year just to check.
Doesn't
Yeah,
feel-
I'm gonna go back and look at sure and see if we can add or lose something. I know they kind
We've
of.
done plenty of requests to add streetlights in.
Oh, yeah. So, but that cost right there, the $4,600, that's the cost for the electricity to run those lights?
Yeah, I don't know why it should be that much. We've had some that we called 3 times on and send a fancy work order in to get fixed, like the one at Clearview and New Road.
I'll be reporting out to you at your next business meeting, but Kennebunk Light and Power has asked for it's a water, I'm sorry. Forget it. It's not the light and power, it's the water. My apologies.
So we ever, I mean, I know there's an initial investment in this, but have we ever talked about maybe converting some of these over to LED lights?
We actually don't own the light, so that's something we'd have to bend CMP's ear about. I don't believe we actually own the light itself. They charge us $600
You're probably
A month.
renting.
per light.
A lot of municipalities have gone to owning their own lights.
Yeah.
There's an initial expense for it, but they're trying to Falmouth is very good at that right now, and I think Nathan's doing a good job up there to try to track and figure out what it's costing him, the initial cost out, and what it's gonna be as a benefit down the road, so.
As opposed to what CFP is charging.
Right, it's still early in the stages as to what that actually will be. Maybe something we can look at, but I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, I know if you go to them and say, hey, we want you to replace them to LED light, they're not gonna do that, because it's gonna be less money that they're gonna get.
Right.
Electricity, right, so.
But if they replace the LED, we may be able to do a rent to purchase or a lease to purchase to have the light. I'm not quite sure if they do that. I can look into that a little bit
Because
more.
I know from a power perspective, they are significantly less.
Yeah.
Who maintains them? We do?
We gotta call them when they're out.
So, and we get billed for whatever?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
We just pay the power.
Right.
Maybe we don't know.
You know, that's
Yeah, it's one
something
of
that
those
you guys
Yeah.
Where
can,
they wanna go with it.
Yeah.
can debate. I can get some numbers for you and take a look at it, but in the long run, it may, with the low amount we have, it just may better just leave it alone.
Right. You concerned about salary levels given what has recently happened?
It's been a problem, we've lost help to the same outfit before,
Yeah.
so.
We conducted an exit interview today with Ryan. Ryan Lasada will be leaving our employment and going to the town of Kennybunk the end of this week.
The ninth is the last day.
9th, and we're probably gonna get him on the 10th too if we have some snow.
Right.
But anyways, he'll be on his way out. He took $2 more in hourly rate. But I didn't get the sense that was the factor. For him, it was more that the department in Kennybunk seems to be a little bit bigger, and the fluctuation of personnel seems to be more flexible, where people are coming and going, and his ability to perhaps go up in responsibilities within the department, and with it, some money may have been more of a factor in his decision.
He actually got a step increase here, and went from a driver 1 to a driver 2, when he's only been there 2 years, so. I don't know what promises he got.
Yeah,
Also have also a better insurance package
Yeah.
over there.
Are they unionized?
yes,
They are. So
They are.
one of those dollars
Teamsters?
an hour is gonna be paying union dues.
yeah, we figured that out too, so.
You'll
So-
figure that out too.
Yeah, we're looking at it, and we'll continue to look at it. Again, one of the packages we have you to consider is adding that family benefit piece in at some
It's
point.
not here now, right?
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
okay.
That, I kept it separate,
Okay.
and if you voted to do it, we do it as a separate warrant article and let the people really take a good hard look at it. But that was one of the things he did say. He said he was fine now, but if family, in the future, if he wants a family and raise kids, that may be a fact that he would have to consider in the future, so, anyway.
Is that a tough spot to fill, Rod? Is it,
The last time, what did we have, maybe 5 guys?
That we considered. I mean, we had a,
I think we got down to 2 though, that,
well, we still had an influx of,
yeah, it wasn't a lot.
no, there weren't a lot, but I mean,
How many applications you get for?
For
last
the
time you went
town
out?
town clerk's
You got-
position, we got over 40.
Yeah, I think we got a half a dozen that was,
does this leave you short-handed with him leaving so soon?
yeah, what are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah.
Babysitting carpenters?
One part-time guy that has been with us for quite a while, does the summertime mowing, he runs plow on call. He's a retired school teacher, and he takes the month of February, and that was a given when he came. I take February, he goes to Hilton Head, South Carolina, plays golf. So, he's out, I'm losing one, and so, February's always a struggle. February's usually a very steady snow month too, so, we'll manage.
CDL driving positions?
This particular one that's leaving us, the full-timer, is a CDL position, yeah.
We're advertising it as CDL as well.
Yeah.
So we're limiting the employment pool, because not only that, but we want them within a half hour of the
Yeah,
town.
response time has always
In
been an
terms of
issue.
emergency response time.
Somebody
that
that
kind of-
applies from Sanford, they can have an hour. And
So,
if they can, you don't wanna meet them on the road. So,
so those are a couple of things that we're looking at. So we'll begin advertising that position real soon. We're tweaking the ad now. Roger's gonna take a look at it, and we'll get it out. we'll go from there. Keep you guys advised as to how we're doing.
It's usually a 6-week process, so winter will be over, hopefully, by the time it even comes close.
So, yeah, what are you doing tomorrow?
Anybody else have any questions in regards to 15-01?
No, I make a motion that, we kind of approve this as, with the changes that Roger submitted. Second?
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Move on to 1701.
Recycling. Sorry, don't have anything on that, do you? No, we don't, but we know, yeah. It is. Right now, we have, I'll sort of take the lead on this, but Roger and Gary pretty well managed that for us on our behalf, but, I've got $103,400 in the air. I bumped the waste disposal to $90,000 from $86,000. That's based on just a preliminary estimate of percentage. I've got a call into Casella now to come down and talk to us about our waste needs. You know, for us, this is a great deal. And I just want to, you know, if they come in at what I think they're going to in terms of cost, I think, you know, they hire the staff, they manage the staff, they haul the material. It works out good for us. And it's something that we really don't have to worry about too much, unless you wanted to tweak the hours open and that, but I'm not getting a lot of people complaining about the hours of operation, so if they were yelling at me, I certainly would bring it to your attention, we'd have to take a better hard look at it, but I left the $5,000 for landfill remediation, hazardous waste day. This year hazardous waste day cost us about $4,200. I think that was a little bit higher than we anticipated, because last year we didn't have many residents go. And I think they, you know, caught wind that they could go this year, and so I think we got a little more waste that showed up. And then we have the canister repair in at 5. I left 2,000 in building maintenance, but Roger and Terry may want to weigh in on that to see if 2,000 is going to be enough. I think there's some work that they would like to propose up there, and we haven't really, you know, you talked about trimming and maybe some painting and stuff like that, so.
I mean, the whole place really needs a facelift. It needs paint. There's, a lot of the trim, the fascia and the rakes and stuff, you can see is all checked, and some of it's rotten, and, some of the corner boards against one of the dumpsters, you can see where they back in and hit the corner of the building. I mean, there's a fair amount of work to be done up there. I'm not really sure that 2 good ends gonna do it, but it's a start. So,
Could be done in phases over a couple of
Right.
days, but
I mean, if we could get some little bit of trim replaced and get it painted out, I mean, some of the T111 has to be re-nailed, it's all warping, so. It's just basically, you know, some good maintenance.
Did we replace a canister last year?
right now we're in pretty good shape. We've got a little bit of work to do to one. Those things they get beat, especially this time of year, because stuff freezes up. Back to what Keith was saying, my biggest worry about this place is sooner or later, they're gonna come to us and say, we can't do it for that. And obviously, my biggest worry is that we end up with it again, because we couldn't do it for that. I don't know how they're doing it, they're hauling dumpsters to us, we questioned it, and said, what is going on? Because we thought, every time, the way it used to be, every time one of those got hauled, there was X number of dollars for trucking. And then the tipping fee for whatever the weight is.
When we were going to Bedford.
Yeah, and they're hauling dumpsters that aren't full. out of a convenience to themselves, and who knows why. I mean, I don't see how they can make a buck doing what they're doing.
We go up there every Monday and every Thursday to mash the dumpsters to make room, you know, if they're pretty much full. And I mean, there's times where it's all fluffed up, but with the excavator, you mash them in and it's not even half full. And the next thing you know, they're gone.
And next thing you know, you see it going by, it's like,
Yeah, it's,
well, good.
Do we know
I
if the,
can't understand how they're making a dime on this deal. Only,
It's-
and the guy that was there before basically said, because we're all around you, and we got trucks going through anyway, they acknowledge the fact that they weren't making much, but they were there.
and there's times where you go up there to mash dumpsters and you say, these guys, were they even open today? You know, there's hardly anything in the dumpsters. So it makes you wonder, you know,
Basically, if they want a little bit of an increase, pay it smart, because we're getting by.
We've said this before, for what we pay,
Yeah.
I'm not complaining, never sure.
do we know if the Arundel cottages are they providing their own trash removal, or will those people have to bring it to the Arundel dump and get rid of it?
I'm not sure, I haven't seen any,
Because that could potentially be another, 100 houses this summer alone, right?
right.
But last summer, what happened last summer?
I don't think there was anything there last summer, right? I don't even think anything was sold yet last summer.
Yeah, there were,
Yeah.
there were a few
Yeah.
homes in there,
Oh, there were?
yeah.
I mean, there's days that, I mean, if you're at the shop, it was just a steady, you know, vehicles going by, and then there's other days that they're open and you look, and it's hardly, if there's 20 cars go by in the course of a day, it's like,
Spring and fall is always the peak times, it seems, and summertime is stragglers, and wintertime is pretty quiet. On the
Yeah.
holidays, you get a little extra, but that's it, but.
I just sort of left it alone because we haven't really received a lot of complaints, so. From what I'm hearing from these guys is that we need to make a better effort to try to maintain the building and do some work there this spring and summer, hopefully we'll, you know, we'll stay within the $2,000 budget.
Well, it's, the canister, we're gonna have to replace or just repair?
Just repair.
And the $5 grand we're gonna need for that?
Well, the last time we bought metal, we spent $600 for just a few sheets of steel, it's like, steel is crazy money right now,
Yeah.
so.
I'm
One
just
of
thinking in
the
terms
other
of
things
if we
they
don't
had to do
move that.
was
Yeah.
the actual track where one of the dumpsters goes into the compactors. That place was built in 1991, and a lot of that stuff is original. The first compactor you see, the one that trash goes in, is the original one. At
Yeah.
some point in time, we're gonna have to do something with that, because
there's also that garage, that overhead door in the back, that it's all right for now, but it's gonna have to be replaced here, you know, within the next couple of years. So, I
You
mean,
know-
it's just stuff that,
For me, I think, you know, we could increase that a little bit, I mean, you know, what's an extra $1,000, an extra $1,500 gonna do, but, you know, I'd like to see a plan on what we're gonna do with that building, how we're gonna, you know,
Sure.
Roger's got his 5-year plan, you know, and,
I would-
what's the plan that we're gonna do with that building to?
I would prefer to leave it as it is right now, and then, we'll take a good look at a maintenance plan, try to put something together. I'm hearing Tom in terms of, if we don't use all that canister, all that replacement money, sort of maybe earmarking 1,000 or so, 1,500 up into the building maintenance line, and show it a little bit differently. We can do that as well. But I think 103 should be okay. We'll just keep an eye on it. But I'll put together a plan.
Yeah, and, you know, depending on what the repair is, we can make sure that we put appropriate money if we know that there's something gonna be huge down the road.
the original roof has been replaced, what, 5 years ago, roughly? Maybe 5, 6. So that part, there's nothing major, like he said.
Is there any capital money there at all? Does that have its own fund?
You got one of these sheets tonight. There's transfer station money of a little over $3,000.
Yeah. If there was a dire need, we could do something.
Right, there's a few dollars in there. Yep,
So that's in a reserve account?
yes.
I didn't get that sheet.
Yeah, so certainly, you know, you've got $2 grand here, and if there's something else, you got a little bit of money there, right? We're
Yeah,
not-
I can have that for
Are we putting anything into that account at all in this year's budget?
get what you're
We
saying?
actually haven't put, since I've been here, we haven't earmarked any money for those accounts.
So I mean,
On
that's
those
a perfect
capital
type of account to work into, you
Correct.
know, a plan for the building.
Correct. You know, put a few dollars in there and request it at some point.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to side that though, before that T-111 got, you know, as Terry mentioned. If you were gonna put vinyl over it, it'd be nice to do it before that T-111 went the opposite direction, you know?
I mean, and it's going that way now, so
Yeah.
it's almost too late. But I think you can put some blocking in, nail it down, and get it so that you can start over it if you want to side it.
Dana, how much siding do you have in your garage?
That's already going to the town hall.
But you had some for that.
One box, I forget what, square footage is.
So we all set with that one at this point?
Yeah. And I'll make a motion that, we approve 103,400 for 1701.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded for 103,400 tentatively. All those in favor? All those opposed? None. Motion passes. And moving on to 20-01.
Yeah, you won't get a breakdown. 20-01 will be
Construction.
Public Works,
Public Works.
capital reserve. And, yeah, 2101, I'm sorry, 2001 is road construction.
Roads.
2101 is the capital reserve, so it's 2001, the road construction. I believe that Roger provided a draft. If you recall, last year, he would drop that by by $50,000. And I told you that I was gonna move it back to 450, and then we'd have that discussion. So Roger's got his plan here, and I guess we can have that discussion if 450 is warranted or some other number. Presently, according to the capital reserve, as of January, there is $112,798.22 in the road project fund.
Last time I got a sheet, wasn't anyways near that much, so I don't know what's going on there. I see that,
Yeah.
Take it and run, Raj.
if it's there. If it's not, we're in trouble. The only thing we had proposed for this coming year was taking and moving one that was scheduled for next year and switching it. So now 2018 projects still do the upper end of Limerick Road, we call it section 3, from the intersection of Brimstone by the golf course to 111. That one was in there, but moving Old Post Road up to this coming year, quite frankly, it would not take another year. That's section 2, which is from Log Cabin Road to Center Road. And moving Clearview and Maplewood back one more year to 2019. Which, that one could easily go back a year and not hurt it, but that Old Post Road section 2 is tough shape, and it's coming apart.
It's kind of watchable right now.
Yeah.
Sure is, I live on it.
You have a conflict of interest.
That's why yeah, I won't vote, that's why I'm always late. I have to go real slow on that road.
Well, unfortunately, what we'll be doing to that is not gonna do that, because right now, we've got, Bill's been digging in these roads, I don't know what actual frost you're finding in anything, if you've opened anything up lately.
I haven't, we opened a couple of roads in Saco, and it was 2.5 feet. We opened a place up on West Street today, and it was 3 feet.
Yeah, I heard of one place that was like a 4-foot frost, so some of these things, I know what's in them, there's 2 feet of gravel and fabric, over the clay, 2 feet of gravel over it, they're well drained, and there's still frost heaves in them. So, I mean, 2 feet of gravel, 4 feet of frost, these things are moving. And there's not a lot you can do. Welcome to Maine.
Exactly.
So if we've got 112,000 in that account now, what's earmarked for?
438.
that?
Nothing.
I think it probably got put back in, yeah.
So that's why that thing is so high.
We can
Last time
double
I
check.
saw it, that was $30-some thousand.
This is, I just got that. It's as of January. So we can double check it,
Yeah.
make sure it's right.
So we grill the treasurer tomorrow, find out.
So if we carry the 450 forward, then we
Because
should have
this-
12,000
There's
left
still
over.
some money left from this year's projects,
Right.
which wasn't a lot, but there was still a little bit left over, and I thought that was because of the grant money that we did get back. We got 95 grand back.
On the culvert.
DEP for that box culvert on Downing Road from the previous year, so. And we had to, gotta go after them, pretty good shape to get it back.
Mm.
Oh, well, you actually have to bill us, even though the grant's been approved and everything. It was,
You got total for the 2017 project was 386,188. And what did we do?
400.
400.
We took 50 from it, right?
Yeah.
But that, obviously there had to be something in there beforehand also,
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, it was, I'd have to look back at that, those sheets to see what was there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you did do that, you did it because there was a little extra money.
So if you got 100,000 left in there, do you need another 450,000, Roger, or?
Well, again,
Look at that 100.
for 18, it showed, what do we have?
Yeah, for 18,
438.
438.
yeah,
81.
I
Yeah,
would
so
leave it,
for-
because 2019, you're almost another 100 above,
correct.
so,
Take your poison.
yeah.
You may
either
be
take
able
it
to-
now or take it next year.
Right.
Well,
I've tried to keep these where they fall in line for the actual schedule, and if you look at that other sheet somewhere you have, for road inventory, that tells you what road we actually own, when it was last paved, when it's due to be paved again. Some of these things, the developments are, there's one in there that hasn't been touched in 20 years, and it's because there's light traffic. It'll go that long, but some of these roads, the main roads, some of them are on a 12-year schedule, and they're not gonna make it.
you could also take some of this and pull something in, right, from 2019 and
Move
do
it
it.
up.
Right.
Now, just a question on, for Limited, you have removed posting. Is this to do work so that way you?
Basically, what this is gonna do is grind all the existing pavement that's on that road, regrade it, widen it a little bit, make it 22 feet wide, pave it with 4 inches of hot top, remove the weight limit on it, and take some of the pressure off New Road and a couple of the other roads. If you've ever tried to get out of New Road with a truck and it's loaded, my oh my.
I'm trying to go west on 101.
And it's gonna be better with the lights, I think. But
Yeah, at least you get
It's-
a turn.
suicide, yeah.
Right now, you
To
don't
get out
get
of
a
there.
turn, you just close your eyes and.
And I'm sure that there's people on that end of Limerick Road that's not gonna like to see the extra trucks, but that will save us on some of these other roads. Because right now, we're driving everything down the new road, any loaded truck. So that was the thought process behind it, to remove the posting, once this is done.
Just want to make sure that my understanding was,
Once this road is upgraded,
so that means I'll be able to fly, I mean, you know, not get jostled around, so.
If they do put a light in at the new road, Route 111 intersection, wouldn't you expect to see quite a bit of the traffic that's now using Limerick Road, take New Road where they've got the light to get out? Because getting out on the 111 from Limerick is no
it's
easy
no
deal
picnic,
either.
depends on what time of day it is.
Yeah,
It's easier than new road, but it's.
It's easier than new road, but when it's new road, it's got a traffic light, I would think a lot of people.
we thought that would
"Oh, I
happen
Go new road. and
when they redid
have
the
a light."
lights at Jackson's Corner originally, and that would take some of the pressure off the Hill Road, it never did. So, it's just more and more traffic. I would think after you've had a couple of tries to get out of the Limerick Road, depending on the time of day, that you might be pushed over to a place where there's a light. And you might sit in along the line, who knows?
But a light there is not a given, I mean, we're gonna have to go fight for a light on that. That could be-
Well, I think it is a given in the project, they've got the project lined up, and the only way that they would put that light in is if we agreed to take it afterwards. They kinda held us hostage on that, like they did the other one. But as far as I know, that is a go.
With the light?
Yeah.
The intersection.
As
is
part of the
okay,
project.
but I don't think the light was part of
I
it.
didn't think the light was
I
part of
didn't
it
think it
either.
was
Well, that meeting we had with the DOT back several months ago, they definitely were not planning on the light.
Right.
Because we
They-
were talking about, having Wayne, you know, put a little pressure on some
Yeah,
of the
did they
other
switch it?
customers.
I haven't-
that
I
might
thought
do
that was part of the deal, and we were footing the bill to take the light once it was done.
I'll have to
That was my
I'll have to
understanding.
look at that, because I don't recall off the top of my head whether we got to go ahead for the light.
Yeah.
Maybe you.
To
maybe
fix
you
that
did.
intersection
It's-
and not do the light is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not on their, when you look at their plan, it doesn't say,
Right.
it's just an intersection, usually when they put a light, they.
Yeah,
write that
yeah,
on the
if they're
plan.
gonna, if they're gonna light it, signal it, they'll tell you that. you
Yeah.
can-
I didn't see it.
So what's your pleasure with the road money at $450?
To John's question, I mean, if you got 112, say you do have 112 sitting in the account at this point in time, do you still need the 450 for this year, or could we?
Well, that's something that you guys would have to make the determination, because that's a reserve, I can't draw any money out of that anyway, so. If you cut funding down, you guys would have to
You have to
take
bump it
money out
next
of
year.
reserve.
But like Jason said, if that held true, we could pull the road from the following year and move it ahead.
Yeah, take it
With your-
2019 and do it,
Blessings.
you know, you've got some that will fit in there, you know, you've got a $90,000 one, you've got a.
Yeah, the only other thing though, again, whatever you approve in this budget is what I get to spend, and the only way I can spend more than that is come to a board meeting and ask to move the project up, and money then comes out of the reserve. And only after you overspend this year's money do you get into that reserve. Anyway,
I don't know, the factors, I mean, you can move a project, but you guys have to have time to do it.
most of this stuff, the drainage work, I think we've got to reline 2 culverts on that old post thing, which is 2 days' work, and that's ready. A lot of these things are ready. We have got several roads ahead of the game. All the drainage work, prep work is done, so they're there.
I think we ought to go ahead and pave our roads and take care of what we got at the same time.
What about next year, Roger? Not to bump ahead, and you can't predict the future, but, you know, this year there's only 2 projects, but next year there's 6 projected. Would it help you at all to move?
Well, obviously, Old Alfred Road, we can't, because that intersection is gonna change, so that you couldn't move up.
Maplewood Drive,
Proctor Road is one that's been a problem,
yeah,
and the only reason we didn't put that in and try to bring that one up this year is because there's already a resurfacing project going on from Route 1 from the hell, 35 Bernard's Drive, which is near the post office or something,
Yeah,
Right in that area, right by McDonald's.
all the way to the Bedford line. Plus, they're gonna redo the bridge deck on that bridge this year. And so we figured that'd be a good place to stay away from. Mostly because trying to get down there. Terry asked him a question, because we talked about it before. We met with the DOT in Kennybunk, it was a joint meeting, and asked them outright, you understand that there's other projects going on this year, and how's this paving gonna do? Because they're gonna basically remove the existing pavement on the deck. The deck itself, the concrete is good. They didn't even think they'd have to change the membrane that's in between, which I guess they're just gonna do a mill and fill as far as the hot top on it. And down onto the approaches. they didn't even know that the other department is coming through and doing the maintenance mix on it. So wait and see, there's gonna be somebody grinding somebody's new pavement over there to make that, they didn't know that was happening. Two different divisions, bridge maintenance, highway maintenance, from the state.
But you know, if we can take the, the Maplewood Drive, you know, that's 71,000, and use some of this 112, and then for next year, that'll get this number below 500,000.
Yes, it would.
You know, more palatable number.
Yeah. The only problem with, and I know you're using that as an example, but when you're in the Clearview Estates, if you do Maplewood, you're going right by the other one. You'd have to do Clearview and Maplewood at the same time. So maybe you could pick one of the other ones to push up a little bit, but that one's gotta be done.
The thing
Sure.
also is, you have to remember is if you put, say you decide to put 450 and you don't spend it, that money's gonna lapse into that.
It's gonna go into that
Reserve
reserve.
So you're gonna have it for the future, so when you come to next year and you're looking at it over 500,000, you may not have to raise that much in order to get those projects done.
Right, but to Phil's point, you know, we wanna take care of the roads that we have, and we've got $112,000 there.
Mhm.
And we use that to take care of the roads, so if it makes sense to wait till next year, that's fine, but, you know.
It seems like a light workload this year, so
Yeah.
there's only 2 projects scheduled for this year.
The thing is, you know, you're looking at 2019 projects. First one, Old Alfred Road, just said,
Yeah, I can't touch that.
can't touch that. Clearview and Maplewood, gotta do those at the same time.
Hamden Place
Then
is on
Proctor
Old
Road.
Alfred Road, so there's another one that you try to tie in together, when they're on Old Alfred. So,
So then that kind of leaves Senate
Center
Road.
Road or Proctor Road, and again, Proctor Road is,
Can you utilize any of the state's equipment on Proctor Road? I mean, if they're there grinding Route 1, could you say, hey, can you grind Proctor Road? And
they don't even know what they're doing, I don't know that I want to.
how about the grindings? Could you use the grindings on Proctor Road?
Well, we've already put into those, so. I told them that before you truck those all over the neighborhood, that we got a place that's DEP approved to take that stuff, so. But they're doing the Route 1 bridge in Wells, and this one, this year. They're doing the one in Wells first, starting in April. The end of May, they're coming to Arundel and doing that one over the railroad tracks.
Could you put the Senate Road in there this year? You're doing Old Post Road too. Senate Road to Log Cabin Road. If there was enough money in there.
It should be for Senate Road.
Yeah. You're gonna be up in there.
That one in itself is 119.
Yeah.
That's gonna expend every dime we have 12,000 left over from this year, plus the one,
112.
I mean, that,
Cutting close.
yeah. I hate to see that account get depleted right to nothing.
Well, how about looking at some of the
You could-
2020 projects?
You could pull up a couple of those other
What's
developments.
the problem with running the town close to zero?
Yeah, because we're looking at putting,
I mean, look at Curtis
400 or
Road, for example.
450.
If you ever run into an emergency where there's a culvert and, I know it was a private way, but, I mean, I would think it would be nice to have at least a $50,000 cushion for any emergency.
Well, nothing stops you, and I haven't talked to Roger about this, but nothing stops you to then consider maybe your projects that you were looking at 2020.
Well, that's what I was just looking at. You got two of them there that are 34,000 and,
You know,
34, 35, pull that in.
You could pull those down and then maybe
Yeah.
do some of those and then reevaluate your project schedule.
But can't we simply approve the 450 and leave it to Roger and Terry and the department to decide what roads? I mean, if Senate Road works because the money's available, then they do it.
yeah.
If it's not,
Well,
we wait.
I'd go with that.
But what do we do with this 112 here?
It's in, sit it in reserve.
Leave it there.
The worst case, they
If
come
they,
to us
if they
and
get
say,
the
hey,
time and they can use the 112 and, and they're only spending 438 here,
Yeah.
maybe there's enough money to do the Senate Road.
Right.
But
that wouldn't take a special town meeting, Tony, to
No.
expend it.
No, it only takes your
it
approval.
takes our approval. It's just a meeting to come to us.
Right.
That's it.
I mean, I don't have, I'm okay with that, I just, you know, let's use that there.
Is that a form of
We've got it
motion?
there, let's
It's a
use it.
motion. Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 20-01 road construction for $450,000. All those in favor?
Who seconded that?
Yours truly.
Jason.
Jason did it?
Who made the original motion?
I did.
Tom.
For a little push from the chairman.
Well, seems like that's a good answer, okay.
Next item is the equipment schedule. Yeah, right now, last year we placed, 50,000 in it. That money is still earmarked for, excavation lease purchase. I think we have, what, 2 years left? On the lease purchase of the, excavator?
That was, I was led to believe, we
Yep.
made 3 out of 5.
And right now, the, Public Works capital equipment suite has got almost 40,000, it's 39,663 in it.
Well, part of my plan would involve taking the excavator payment out of the 50 that you normally make. But I've got a proposal down here, one of these trucks that's only 32 years old, we're looking to replace because it's
Only 32?
only 32 years old. It was military surplus. We've got a lot out of that stuff, but there's a few of these that it's just time to go. And we can put them out to bid, but you'd almost get as much loading them up and hauling them down to the steel company.
That's unit 20 then.
Yeah.
Yes. What this replacement cost involves is some prices I got from Arundel Ford, basically. Bill will scout me for this one, but there's not much to get anyway. That we're looking at a 1 ton and probably a gas job. Cause we've had so much fun with these 550s and the diesels and all the stuff. Personally, I think all work trucks should be a diesel, but boy, $10,000 to $12,000 more for a cab and chassis because it's a diesel and a heavier transmission, cause all our gasoline. This would be basically a light duty truck with a plow, a sander that we already have, slid into a dump body. So that 55 was 38 of it was for the cab and chassis, 10 for a stainless steel, regular conventional dump body, and then a plow. Plow was like $6,500. So 55,000 would replace that truck 20. And if you did it over 5 years with the money coming out of that capital equipment sweep account, you could still make your excavator payment and make 5 payments out of that without raising any additional. When we go over the rest of this though, you'll see that some of these units have replacement costs. There's some that we have in the fleet right now that are military surplus, or there's a backhoe, maybe the first one you come to. So it doesn't have a replacement cost, because in theory it was replaced once already by that excavator. It's in the fleet, we still use it for additional snow removal, occasionally some excavation work, but there's no replacement cost on it. We're not gonna replace it. When it dies, it's gone. Same with the grader. Grader's still in good shape, but there's no replacement cost on it. That was a military surplus unit. We paid $17,000 for that 20 years ago.
How often do you use that one?
Well, we did away with another dirt road, but we pull shoulders a lot still, so it's still something that, I believe we need to keep. We also, last year we used it some pushing snow back. We put a wing on it. When the snow builds up enough so that you're going down the road with these trucks pushing back, even a big truck, it'll ride up over the wing and come right back in behind it. So you go out with a grader, cut the top of them off, you have to, or just plain push them back, but, so there's still a need for it.
2020 could be an expensive year though, huh? 100,000,
Well,
125,000.
the next replacement, big item, is that loader.
Right.
The Volvo.
Yeah. At that point, the excavator would be paid off. That's been a,
So you could lease
if we could buy another one identical to that, that's been a real good unit that we haven't spent a lot of money on.
what about the 2 plow trucks, like the L8000 and the F550?
Well, we've got a little bit of a plan on those that I think A conventional cab and chassis, we're thinking that it's already had a body that's been replaced on it. So we're looking at a cab and chassis and new hitch and plow gear. Only because that plow gear is, what, 22 years old right now? The holes in the push frames and stuff aren't quite round anymore. So I know you can fix some of that stuff, but you can only fix it so many times. And you gotta file a tire iron. But in theory, you could replace that cab and chassis, slide that body that we replaced on it a few years ago, put a new hitch and plow on it for that money, $100 grand. There's still a nut we're trying to crack with surplus. We gotta go check with Sanford, because they got a couple of trucks different than what we've got for surplus, bigger trucks. That are out there, you don't see a lot of them yet, but they're happening here and there. Sanford got 2 Freightliners from federal surplus for cheap money. Those trucks were selling for $166,000 to the taxpayer, and we're buying them for 1.5% of that. I think we could probably do something with one of those on this first truck. Truck 2 and truck 4 are 2 years apart. They're basically identical, except one drives a little nicer than the other one. Only because it doesn't have a setback axle, but those are the next 2 that you're gonna have to do something with. But if you add all these numbers together, it's $1.4 million. And over the 12-year time frame that they would be replaced in, that's $119,000 a year, and you're raising 50. Do the math. If we get lucky with federal surplus and find something else to replace a couple of these, we'd be in good shape.
The trouble is they're not, anything's not showing up that's that small, like a 1 ton, something like
Yeah.
that. They just, they ain't out there.
Yeah, the military went to the Hummers, and then they went to the truck that we converted into a.
Yeah, there's a bunch of those deuce and a halves out there right now, which replaced truck, well, we're looking at actually replacing 21. I think we've got it written down here wrong.
I mean, even the pickups and stuff like that, it's just not gonna.
Yeah, right, those pickups have dried up because they made those in a range, like the newest one was an 87. And after 87, the 88 vintage stuff all turned out to be Humvees, which really doesn't seem to fit our need. For an off-road vehicle, they're probably great, but the public works, I don't see what we can do with it.
So I think we're
There's
gonna
a
find.
slew of those out there.
Yeah, the maintenance costs on them things.
So I think we're gonna find ourselves in that, 3,500,
Yeah.
F-350
We were looking at,
range for a few trucks.
that cabin chassis was based on a 1 ton, which is like, he said, 350, 3,500 or whatever. That other truck we got, that deuce and a half, the cab over one, has worked out better than we expected. I was kinda worried about how it's gonna be. It's got a plow and a wing on it, a sander, and it's a goofy looking rig, but it does the job.
Sounds goofy too, going down the road.
No, it's a cat diesel motor, it's conventional parts. And Ryan, the guy that's leaving us, and that's not why he's leaving us, by the way, has been running that, and it's worked fairly well. He found a new piece of curb with it, one of the first times out that it didn't like, but that was the new intersection of Walker's Lane and Route 1, where they redid that bridge and it didn't have curb before, so.
I mean, I had the chance to run that truck, and that truck, it goes nice. I mean, you've got good visibility out of it, and it's a good truck.
It's got 5,000 miles on it, there's a lot of use there. It was time consuming to do. These guys had a ton of time in it. So, but it's conventional parts that you can buy. Runs good, goes good, does the job.
So I think what you're hearing from us is that we're really looking at other alternatives to curb a $1.3 or $4 million purchase over
Yeah, if you had to
still
go
a period
outright
of time, so.
and buy conventional stuff. That's
I
what
don't
you're
see
looking.
anything being replaced next year, which is a good sign to us, but
Other than,
we're already overexpending, and we're putting 50,000 in this year, but we're taking 55 out. I know we have the cushion there, but
Well, in theory, we've got some money still in that capital equipment sweeps account.
Right.
So with the 50 that you're gonna raise, plus with what you have, that I would propose doing that 55 grand over 5 years.
Yeah, doing a lease purchase on that truck.
Right.
So
Okay.
we'll purchase a lease purchase on that 3,500.
So you can still make your excavator payments.
So we can make the
Make a
excavator,
truck
the
payment
excavator
and
payment is
not
about $47,000. So there's a few there, plus what you have here.
That's
So-
carrying nothing forward.
Right. So we'd request another $50,000 to put in. So we're gonna spend the 47 plus the 3,000 and then make up whatever out of this capital reserve for the first year's payment of that new truck. That
And nothing
3,500.
rolls to 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless it comes in like it may be 10 or 12,000, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And then next year, we'll come back, we'll have to reevaluate that again.
Well, next year, we're already $100,000 over on the road,
Right.
so. I feel like we're behind the 8 ball going ahead.
It
Well, yeah, but that
feels,
100,000 that we're over is offset a little bit because we're under this year.
50,000 this year.
it sort of feels that way, but I think we have a plan. I hope we're gonna make it work.
I look at the public works capital reserve, and I think we're way underfunded.
The only way you can get away with this 50 grand is that we get lucky and get this other line of trucks that works out. And Sanford's got 2 of them in operation. Sanford is broke. And they started dipping into this federal surplus stuff for that reason. They did do it the hard way and they sent them to HP Fairfield and spent 40 grand to have them equipped, but they're basically getting the trucks for $5,000.
We got a chance to look at them before, and you climb up inside the cabs, and they're more of a conventional cab than they are military. And I don't know why, usually the military, they got all the military
Yeah.
stuff in there, but,
They seem
More
to have gone
conventional.
to civilian, it's a Freightliner cab and chassis.
so it'd be a lot easier to, work on and do stuff with. You're not screwing. trying to
I have all the
figure
faith
out
in you
military.
guys, because I think you did a beautiful job the last couple of years with that program. I mean, you saved us a ton of money, but I feel like we're playing poker and
Yeah, you
our
are.
luck's gonna run out here. And our hand's not gonna be there when we need it.
You are playing
poker, and the aces are all gone, and the queens are all gone.
I'd rather count on that program not being there than,
But I think if we put another 50 grand in this year,
but it's gone.
right, so 47 of it's obviously committed, and then the rest will go to whatever, if we get approval for the purchase of the one-ton. I think in the future, we wanna use that 50K for the purchase of the front-end loader.
Lower.
And so,
So
at
that would
some
be fully
point,
expended, so I don't feel like we're ever getting
so at
it.
some point, we're gonna have to put a little extra money in here and start putting some money in. I'm not quite sure if I would recommend 25 grand to make it 75K this year, to give us ourselves a little bit, or wait one more year and then come back and bump the
I'm thinking we should talk to the marijuana growers to get their fertilizer for our money tree, because I mean, they might know something we don't.
They sure do, because I don't see how these guys are getting by what they're getting by with.
Thought she was gonna be taking.
That could be our tip district.
Opportunity, Graham jack it up and,
The public works, that was a pretty good newspaper. Truly, we gotta do something with that one loan truck this year though, because when I've got enough tails to put in all the seats, that's one of the trucks that runs every stone. So, we've got a lot out of those, but
Yeah, it's time
It's
to send
time.
it down the road.
these other ones, I think you're gonna see more of them start showing up, because the military's done what they've done, and they've gone to all armored cabs, and that's why we got that deuce in there. There's a bunch of those still out there. And those Freightliners are the same thing, they were conventional cabs, they weren't armored cabs, you ought to see the new ones. They had goofy looking rigs. You'd never be able to haul a legal load of anything in one of those down the road, with the armored plate they've got in those. Military don't care, but
I mean, for us, I think it was nice to do do the conversion on that military truck to make it plowable for us, but as Roger said, these guys put in a heck of a lot of time to get that done.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that one of these plow companies, either Fairfield, Messer, somebody, will come up and design something that would be more of a off-the-shelf thing
They
that we
do
can
one of
buy
those.
and put on there, and then it may make it more palatable to go after another one of those.
There's one out there someplace that they did.
Is it Tim talking about that?
Yeah, okay, maybe it wasn't HP, maybe it was the other outfit, Viking. They did one for someone, and they did it. A little differently than we did, because it's, ours got electric sander on it.
And Tim,
They
was
put
saying
it-
they had a problem with doing
Yeah.
that, yeah, it's a
The
problem.
hydraulics is the issue. And you've gotta put the hydraulic pumps off the transmission now, because under the hood, those things, the fan bolts to the crankshaft on that. There's no other pulleys, it's just a goofy looking ring. So trying to get a pump in there would be a nightmare. So they run them off the transmission, but it's been done.
Is there PTO on a transmission?
Most all of the new ones, 550s included, any of them that are running central hydraulics on it so that you can run your plow, if it's got a wing and a sander body on it or whatever, is driven off the side of the transmission because there's no room left under the hood.
So are you relatively comfortable with the 50 grand this year?
Only because I think we can do something in the future for those other trucks.
I'm just thinking too, when do we get a break on the loan, the RSU loans? You know, Velma, is that next year that we start getting,
Well,
Paying
Not
less
this
money?
coming year, no.
not this year, but next
Next
year?
year
Yes.
starts to go down a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yes.
So we might have a little bit more.
Leeway next year?
So you can all already guarantee that the RSU is gonna be.
Well, their budget may be up, but I mean, we won't be paying the payment that we are right now, at the level we are now, on the loan or the bond.
I kind of agree with Sean, I'll give you 10 to 1.
Well, I
Whatever you
know.
save on that bond, you're gonna see it
Yeah.
go sky high with operating expenses.
Yeah, and then remember, we get town hall coming up here too, so.
Why don't we split the difference this year between the road and the capital? I mean, it seems like it's a light year on paving. Instead of 450, why don't we move 425 forward on road and take the 25 extra and put it towards capital? You know, kind of come down the middle on both of them, and that carries an extra 25 forward on capital vehicle, and
I think that would work.
we've got the extra money in the road anyway. We got almost we've got over 100 grand in the road.
Remember that when we come in crying, we need some extra money. I don't envision that. I think what you said will work.
I just, I don't know.
So-
That's a motion.
Is that
So-
the form of motion, Jason?
So we'll go 425 in road and add,
Go 75 on
75 in
On vehicle.
capital equipment.
I'll second that motion, I like that.
It's a light year on pavement. And we locked in for 3 years on pavement anyway, right?
Well, we basically did a 5-year deal with Dayton. Last year's pavement price was like $61.88 a ton. That was negotiated for last year. I don't see a big increase this year, but that's something that every spring we negotiate with them. And if
So
we
your
can't
numbers were
come to an
75.
agreement on a price, then you go back to bid, and I don't think we really wanna do that. I like how it's going right now.
So the 75 number could be high, so there might be some extra
Was it,
money.
Russ?
$61.88 a ton. Whether it was dumped in our truck at that plant or put on the road in place, same price. Kinda foolish to go buy it, isn't it? Patch is double that, by the way, and by the time you get it out there, it's a Band-Aid.
I wrote
We
the whole
patched.
one.
Today.
Unfortunately.
So awful.
Okay, got a motion, and a second.
Who seconded it?
I did.
Okay, Dan.
Okay, who moved on it?
Jason.
Jason. To move 2001 road construction down to $425,000 and increase the 2101, the capital reserve for public works, from 50,000 to 75,000. All those in favor? opposed? There are none. Motion passes.
At some point in time, if we can ever come to an agreement, we were actually gonna come up with a proposal to add, basically, I don't know if anybody's seen Kennybunk's salt shed building they have, it's basically bin blocks with metal trusses and a canvas roof over it, something like that, but we can't all agree on what it is and where it should be, so that's another day.
Put it down on Limerick Road and move the town hall in there.
It's gotta be in our backyard, but
Either that or we'll move town hall and take that old town hall.
about 10 years ago, I made a proposal to the Dunn town manager to add 2 bays onto the shop, and it was $100,000 then, and he told me, when we get a new town hall, come and see me. Till then, go away.
Yes, Roger will come see us next year.
That would be the right thing to do, is to add 2 bays to that place. But you're looking at $100,000 as opposed to the other way of $15,000, and basically you'd have places to plug trucks in, and they'd be kind of undercover for what it is.
Is there any type of that on that? I mean, I know you always shop for vehicles when you do the search on the military search. Do they ever let go of those instant
I
buildings?
haven't
and-
seen anything, because I checked, there's different sections of that website, and some of it's vehicles, and there's construction equipment, and there's building supplies, but a lot of times, it could very well be,
Yeah.
you can't break through their code numbers and stuff to figure out even what the hell it is. So you do a search on it, and it'll only give you, you know, a trust, or something like that. Doesn't tell you what it is. I'm sure it's out there.
Everybody else set with Roger?
Good job, Roger, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Roger.
Thank you, Terry.
I like that breakdown, Rod, the equipment list breakdown. That's handy.
On the equipment?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, I knew somebody was gonna be after me for it sooner or later, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I did have one question, I saw on here was highlighted generator, the Lincoln Ranger 9 combo. Were you
Yeah.
looking to get rid of that?
No,
or-
this is just, that was a, part of this was fixed assets, off the fixed assets sheet, so that's why that stuff got added. But we've got a big generator, we got military surplus. We've yet to get any electrician down there to get it set up so that it would run.
He still hasn't come down there and done that?
No, that's why I grabbed that thing at the counter.
Okay.
He hasn't got yours done yet either.
No.
I guess that hooked up.
You're holding all the time.
When you get that hooked up, it'll run the fire station.
Yeah.
If we went out and hooked it right to the pole, it would run all of Bergeron Drive.
We just run a cord up the fire station, right on the back. You've had that generator for.
Couple years. It runs, it puts out power, it does. But,
Just doesn't run?
well, it runs fine. It's not hooked up so that you can use it
not
to
hooked up
power the
properly.
building.
We
That
wanted-
Lincoln Ranger runs, so when the power goes out for days sometimes, we've got lights, we've got heat, but you can't flush the toilet. And we can pump fuel. So, that other generator would run that place in the transfer station too, probably.
Yeah, what size is
It's 100.
it? Yeah, 9 kilowatt, I think it's a whole lot.
No, that runs the shop, and it's outside the door and it's noisy, but it gets us by. So, that other stuff was, usually those things are purchased as an outright purchase, the smaller heat thing.
Okay.
The town
Just
hall.
had to ask.
Yeah.
The fire department had.
No, that's not going anywhere,
Propane.
that's still got a lot of time left.
It just feeds the fire department.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Those things are
really-
basically $3 grand, buy them at
I don't know why they
Tractor
never-
Supply.
It's
No,
big
no,
enough,
no,
I would do
Plenty
it.
of people, that same thing.
I don't know why they never did it.
I think at the time, power came in from 2 separate, like town hall came from Mountain Road, fire department came from Limerick Road, so when we did the generator, it concentrated strictly on the fire department. I think that was the reason.
Where the power runs?
Why the generator was never hooked to both the town hall and the fire department.
I think at one point.
There was
Wasn't
something
there,
like that, wasn't it? The way there was a feed off Limerick Road to one and.
I'm not sure.
wasn't there a portable generator that was, must have been used, because we have that outside connection for the generator for the town office, so there must have been one at some point that they
Yep.
used.
One time we lost power, I think Dave Lane was the one that did that. He hooked that up. And had a small generator, I think from the fire department hooked up with that.
Okay.
I'm almost positive it was Dave that hooked that up.
All right.
Anything else for Roger? Thank you very much, Roger.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Tomorrow we'll be able to get through, it's after the end of the week, but things get picky, so if I had everybody's phone number, I'll give you a call. I already made Keith an offer, but he didn't buy it.
Yeah, I didn't bite on it either.
Michelle's never on time, so I wouldn't
Previous
count on
town
her either.
manager plowed one storm with us. We're through the night, and the next day he saw his next door neighbor, Joe Finnegan, and said, "Joe, would you like a job?" That's how we got Joe.
Oh, there you go.
Plowed one storm, that was enough. Thank you, folks.
Good, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah.
Come on up, chief. All right. We're into the 1300 series now. 1301, 1303, and 1304, which will be the operating budget for the fire department, the per diem, the volunteer, as well as the per diem cost associated with it, with those three budgets. We'll take the first, which would be 1301, which would be the fire department's general operating budget.
Oh, I didn't feel that.
What I did is I have a proposal in before you of $305,850. That also includes the movement of the fire chief's position from a 24-hour a week position to a 40, I think it's 42 or 44 hours a week position. It would move the position to a working, my proposal was it'd be a working chief, that they would work, right now, Reno works a 36-48, something like that. So 1 week he's working 36, the next week he's working 48, so it works out to be 42 hours. And then this one would work almost in conjunction with that, but a little separate change. Now, Chief and I probably come at this at different ways in terms of how we look at that. But the reason I proposed the full-time position, because I felt that it gave us the best ability to provide the services that we're looking for to our residents, and also provide that we would have at least two administrators on at any given time during the week to really try to take care of all the administrative paperwork. The chief would have the ability to do that. He'd be there on a day-to-day basis, so our communications would be a little bit more robust. And I think it would just give us a better ability to provide services. If you choose to do that, I think the savings that we could see would be in the per diem cost. I think we could change some of the per diem rate. Right now, we would be covering some of that per diem shift with a full-timer, so we'd have to make some changes in that per diem cost. I haven't proposed that yet, but that would be my proposal if you felt that this was the way to go. And then, and the chief can probably get into this a little bit too on the call service. I think we're looking at that. He's got some ideas of what we should be doing in terms of the actual number of call personnel that we have that show up for fire functions seems to be dropping, and then some of our call personnel that may be on our list are not necessarily working for us, so our list may be larger than it actually needs to be. The last payroll that we did, we had 19 call personnel that got paid. And we have about the same amount of per diem folks that work for us on a monthly or weekly basis, so.
How many on the list?
There were 20 on the list that I saw, so I'm not sure how much we'll be able to change that, but I think if you go along with the proposal of the chief to go to a full-time position, then I think we have savings in the per diem cost to make up some of that change here. Other than that, I think the personnel is a large thing. He can sort of weigh in on his thoughts about it with you. But that was the way I was thinking as I was putting it together. And this is no surprise to him. Him and I have talked about it on a couple occasions, so he understood that what my position was going to be. But the ultimate position is yours and yours alone as to what we're going to recommend. So I think, you know, you can look at staying at 24, moving to full-time. You could eliminate the position if you so desired and go another route. Or you could go to 32, which again, 32 would get you a full-time, give you the benefit package. So if you go to 32, you still got benefits to pay. So I think those are your options. I'm not recommending those other options at this point. I think that we're at the time where it'd be nice to have a chief there, so we can really stay focused on some of the other things that I think that are important for us to do. So.
Is Reynold a paramedic or just an EMT?
He's an advanced.
Yeah.
He's in between the EMT and the paramedic.
Okay.
He's in the middle. There's 3 levels. He's in
Yeah,
the
he's
second.
in level 2.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right,
so-
Chief tells me though now that we've got enough paramedics that most of our shifts now are paramedic licensed. So we do have a paramedic on board and most of our calls, which is a good thing. I have to.
Yep. The last 3 months, there's only been 1 shift each month that's not had a paramedic scheduled 24/7. Now that doesn't mean that during that time period that one of the paramedic hasn't got sick and called out, we weren't able to fill it with a paramedic. But as far as signing out, Randall's done a good job. There's only been 1 12-hour shift for the last 3 months. It hasn't been covered by a paramedic.
But if we had a full-time chief, you're talking about having the chief and Reynold there, both full-time.
Right.
So the chief would have to be a paramedic.
I'm making the proposal that he be paramedic. yeah.
Paramedic, okay.
And the one advantage we would have to that is what they call QA/QI. So that if a chief was at the paramedic level, he could essentially evaluate every single call and basically oversee every single call if he was at the paramedic level.
And that training is part of being a paramedic?
Yeah.
And why do they need to do that? Besides probably a whole slew of.
If something was done,
regulations.
yeah, I mean, that's part of it, BLS standards. At the other end of it is critiquing the calls, you know, if something was done wrong, if something could have been done better. You literally could go through and read every run report. How come this wasn't done? How come this was done?
Okay, my next question is, if they had a call, that ambulance goes out, those 2 people go on, who's manning the station?
It would be just like it is now. Nobody would be manning the
Okay.
station.
All right. Kenny Bunker or one of the others
Right,
would be on that.
we have mutual aid like we always do.
Mhm.
The other thing is that we talked about this too, I think we do it to a certain extent now, and, is we're licensed as paramedics, so if somebody up the road needs a paramedic and they're not, we could do an intercept and assist other communities. That, I think we talked about that, and it's something that we should look at, if we're gonna provide that service as well, so.
So I'm gonna kind of weigh in on this, and Keith and I have already talked about this. I don't have the same vision as Keith, but I will say right up front, this will affect me personally. if you decide to go with full-time paramedic, okay, because I am not a paramedic, okay? So, I look at it a little different, is that I haven't asked, I'd love to have more hours, but I haven't asked for more hours because I'm more interested in having the people that provide the service get paid so they stay, and we keep those here, so that's why I haven't asked for more hours. The paramedic, we've tried to raise them up, we've got the call force up a little bit, so that's one of the reasons I haven't asked. The other thing is, I will tell you that it's 50-50 in my eyes on a working chief. When you have a working chief, where we run most of our calls are EMS calls, there's a good chance this chief's gonna be out running EMS calls, because he's gonna be a paramedic. So when you need him to go to these meetings and stuff that he's talking about for administrative, a lot of times they're not there. And that's the downside to it. Is Arundel at that position where they need a full-time chief? Pretty close. But I had also said to Keith that maybe what you wanna do is, if you wanna go that route, you already have a guy that works for you. He's at the advanced level. Maybe the thing to do is offer Reynold the job as chief and hire a paramedic in his position. And then you still get both things. He's familiar with the town, he's been here for 15 years. I mean, I'm kinda selling myself out of a job here, but, but anyways, the other thing is that we talked about, go ahead.
But that's still, in doing that, whether it's Reno or somebody else,
Right.
that still covers what your proposal is.
Correct.
Right, because, I mean, it's, the full-time chief, right now, we're not assuming that it's anybody,
That's right.
it's open for anybody.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
But, I mean, I would think as a selectman, if you decided you wanted a full-time chief, that where he's a full-time employee, you would be able to offer that to him if you wanted to. I don't know if you're required to go and ask for it. If you're gonna look for, he's not a paramedic, but he's in advance, so, you know, the option is to offer him the job, excuse me, and hire somebody else as just the paramedic, and that way he's around. But there again, if you're gonna use this new person as a replacement for the paramedics, which is the per diem, which is something that Keith and I had to talk to, I think you're staying the same and you're not improving. To me, I thought what he was doing when he said he wanted to hire a full-time chief, he was adding another person with the full-time guy, the full-time chief, and the per diem on duty. That gives you 3 people to go to these calls, okay? Which we get now when I'm there, okay? And I run certain calls. The problem with the paramedic thing is I am not a paramedic. So, I mean, if that's where you go, I can't even put in for the job, and I understand that. So, it's like I told him, he kind of put me in a position here because it's going to affect me personally, but I also want to see what's best for the town. And the other thing we ran into is, we've had a couple of structure fires, possible structure fires, in the last couple of weeks, and other than the 2 per diems and Deputy Cooper, myself, and Reynold showed up, we got 1 or 2 callmen to show up to a structure fire. Well, that's only 5 or 6 people, that's not anywhere near adequate to fight a structure fire. Now, we do bring in mutual aid departments. Some of the people that are on our call force are also on their call force, so you never know, you're not getting any extra people, you're getting the same people, they just happen to be wearing a different coat. So my proposal was, rather than put the money into a full-time chief at this time, was to try something that I've seen some of the other departments do, is offer a couple of callmen a stipend. But basically what you do is you set an hour shift, like a 10-hour shift or a 12-hour shift at night, and you say, I will offer you $20 to stay in town to be and go every call we have in that 10 or 12-hour period. Whether you have a call or not, you get to $20. If you have a call, you gotta go, and then you get the hourly rate on top of that. Now, when I figured it out, if you put 2 on for nights at 10-hour shifts or a 12-hour shift, it's about 14 grand. The thing is, will we always get those shifts filled? Probably not. So you're not gonna spend all that money. But if you do, those times you do, there's a couple extra people, that gives you 4 people. It gives you the 2 per diems plus 2 call force to respond from home that said they're going. So there's some different options as far as I'm concerned. You can hire another per diem, The other thing I hadn't mentioned to Keith was you technically could do the stipend shift things. You can do it daytime, you can do it weekends, you can do it all the time. You could offer a call or per diems that live in town and said, look, if you'll stay in town and respond for the next 10 hours, we'll give you $20, or we'll give you $25, or we'll give you $15, whatever the board decides would be a good fee. And then if we have a call, they get paid an hourly rate, which is, the average hourly rate for callmen is like $11.44 an hour, so. And then they, after the call, they go home. It's just some options to try to get more manpower. And it's not just a run, trust me. Everybody's got the same problem. Everybody's lacking on call force. Like I said, it affects me personally as a chief. I don't think we're quite there. I would like to take a shot at, if the board agrees, to try something with the stipends to see if we can get some more people in here. But, we also gotta look at the coverage for the taxpayers. And that's the important thing, to me. That's where we wanna put the money. I mean, if the board thinks that's the way you need to go, hey, that's the way you need to go. I mean, it is what it is, but, there's some options. So Keith and I did talk about it. I thought what was a really nice discussion. I mean, I tried to be as honest as I can, and say, I think he's on the right track. I think it's probably something we need to look at. I just don't know if we're there yet. But, it's all in what the board wants to do. But one thing I did want to tell you was that as far as the per diem program goes, for the last 90 days, we have been pretty much paramedic coverage, except for 3 shifts, 3 12-hour shifts.
Did you have to call mutual aid for the structure fires?
We always do. It's an automatic
Oh,
now.
oh,
Anytime they get a call for even possible structure fire, it's an automatic
Oh,
thing now.
okay.
But the
And
thing
the other
that,
towns do the same thing?
absolutely. The thing we run into is that it's really sad after all these years of being a fire chief that when you show up to a fire in anybody's town and you walk a half a mile and you go by 15 fire trucks and there's only one guy on each truck. And you gotta park half of those on the street and just leave them there because you need the people. So now we're tying up all this fire apparatus. It's unfortunate, but right now that's the way it is because everybody's so hurting for people. And I think we've talked about it before, that this per diem pool is getting smaller and smaller because every town's doing it now. And all we're doing is, and I think Keith said he talked to the other town managers about it, is all we're doing is we keep raising our hourly rate up to draw the per diems back so we get them over their town. And then they do the same thing.
I shared with him that the town of Falmouth went to $25 an hour.
I mean, it's a good thing they're kinda out of our pool range, but, I mean, we had a call where we actually intercepted for somebody. I sent my paramedic to help a mutual aid town coming down, and their fire chief happened to be aboard when my guy that was working for me that day comes back with an application in his hand. That chief was trying to recruit him to be a per diem for him while I was helping him out. I go, well, that's not right.
At least send it by email.
Yeah.
So I think what you're hearing from us is that there's a variety of ways to look at this, in terms of, putting some money aside for paying call personnel to stay in town, as he's proposed. We can work up those numbers if you think that's something that we need to do. Looking at the full-time position and then reducing the per diem, or maybe going along with the suggestion of having another one here, so you have 3 on staff. I'm not sure if we're, I don't see us there yet. I think we need some movement. I think we're ready for that. And just some of these other things I think need to be flushed out. And would welcome your comments and your suggestions on it, because I'd like to be able to make a solid proposal to you folks for vote. I'm not ready to vote on this budget tonight in any way, because I think it's still up in the air in terms of what we're going to do with this personnel packages. But your comments and your thoughts would help us provide
my
that.
personal feeling is what you were just saying, we hire a full-time chief, well, that's a paramedic, and then he goes out on calls. seems like we're spending more money than if we just hired a real paramedic. And then be able to keep the chief maybe in the office and working on chief stuff, grants, whatever.
So your thought is to stay at 24 with the chief and then hire
Or maybe even
ourselves
bump it
a
up to 32, but I still think that, you know, as a chief.
You don't want him to have the responsibility of the paramedic EMS statute or standard.
Right, I think having that person, because you want a chief, you're gonna call me silly, but you want that person to be able to, you know, focus on chief duties instead of grunt duties.
Mm-hmm.
Grunt being, you know, being out there on every call. Whether it's part of your duties or not to go to every call, I don't see that as.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that, and the only reason I disagree with it is I don't think we're large enough to have a administrative chief at 40 hours or 42 hours a week. I think we need a working chief. I think it would be, at some point, we may be able to go to a situation
Well,
where the chief is
I was suggesting
administrative.
maybe even just a 32 hour.
Okay.
My suggestion would be if your idea would be to leave the chief's position at 24, and then go ahead and hire the paramedic. Because that would give the chief the position of 24, it would also keep him below the 32 hours, so the benefits aren't there. Now, that's for me, I mean, in my situation, because, I mean, that would, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with that, but I don't know if you even need to move the chief's position up, if you're gonna go that, leave it at
Isn't it
24.
important to have the chief there full-time? I mean, it just seems like it's an awful peculiar
I think
situation
so.
when a guy who's heading the department,
You know,
is a part-time
The
employee.
chief and I have a good relationship in terms of communication, but I gotta tell you, I don't see him. I could go a week or maybe 2 weeks without seeing him because we're just not crossing paths.
Right, because of
So-
the day, hours I work or whatever, or he's
Where-
gone, I'm gone. or-
We're with the Public Works Department and all of our other staff, I see them every day.
Sure.
I go down, I visit with them, I talk about the issues that they're dealing with, and it would be nice that if we had that, I mean, I guess I can
Well, I
change
think
my.
the county, the contact is important.
Right, I can schedule the appointment and have them come in.
Well,
I
you know,
understand.
But for the employees of the fire department, I mean, it's nice to have somebody
Right.
there all the time.
What's
Yeah.
typical for full-time chief?
It all depends on volume.
Yeah,
Arundel is about as close to the tipping point as you can get. We're not
What
quite over it,
How about
Right.
but
chief
yeah.
at 30 hours a week,
well,
We should
even
say
under
Henry
the
Curve and
32
get it
full-time.
done.
You know, and
Before it's
the
too
problem,
late.
I understand what you're saying, in my position,
Full-time guy.
something like that would work,
He can run the
okay,
department.
but for, if you wanna hire somebody
Yeah.
that is gonna be licensed, which is not me,
Even if you don't
obviously, because I'm not licensed,
Should be
then
like
they're gonna
two.
want more than 30 hours.
I agree with you, Phil.
They're gonna want benefits, they're gonna want full-time
I think
position, so I think.
Nancy, here
80% of it
for
now.
policies, procedures,
From a billing
training
standpoint, most of it goes
schedules,
directly to Lisa.
shift schedules,
I mean, all this stuff.
the,
You need them all?
You can only go to the
public
advanced level.
appearance
You can't
to
do
the-
paramedic
to
level.
the department, the safety classes here at the school. You know, those are the kinds of things I see, searching out the grant applications. I mean, one of the things we haven't even talked about is that at some point, we're really gonna have to look at our SCBA equipment and start replacing that. Our equipment schedule needs to be looked at. I think the other thing that I would task a full-time chief to do would be to really dig into this regional effort to put departments together. We're still talking turf wars. You know, we may be even asking the chief to work himself out of a job, but I think in the
Are you
end,
talking about me?
I think in the end, we're looking at, you know, the amount of personnel that we have to have and the equipment that everybody's buying. I mean, you know, millions of dollars for equipment cost. there's gotta be a way that we can regionalize this and utilize everything, you would think, right?
We've tried it and tried it.
I know.
And it
It's-
just never works.
It's gonna have, I don't know what it is about this county. You just can't, you know, you just can't do it. I mean,
So,
I've never seen anything
I
like
guess
it
to
before.
answer your
why you
question,
can't
things
regionalize
that
it.
I'm looking at.
These people, I mean, somebody comes and says, we wanna take part of your town, I'd say, go ahead. But other kids go, no, that's my town, you can't
I
do
think
it.
we can get
It's
the best of both
We should be
worlds.
regionalized, we should be. Works all over the country.
Calls for full-time chief.
Right, I don't think we need it. I honestly, if you guys let me put my 2 cents in here.
Well, why wouldn't
I mean, I live it quite a bit a week. I don't think we're ready to go to a full-time chief, I really don't. But I think we can get the best of both worlds here, where if we maintain no more than 31.99 hours a week with a chief that has either an advanced or a paramedic level, that would leave us some funds available to put back into the call force, and Arundel would be getting the most for their dollar. If there's a third person there, why wouldn't the town of Arundel want it to hold an EMS license? That to me is absurd.
So you,
And that would leave the chief to continue to do chief duties. and
Administrative
if he's
duties,
needed,
there is a third person that
Right.
has an EMT license for the need that if it ever is.
Doesn't mean that he has to go out every
That doesn't
time,
mean
but
he has to
there's.
go out on every call.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But what's the likelihood that you're gonna find somebody who, with that credential, who's gonna work 30 hours a week?
Right,
It's,
exactly.
Arundel is in the unique position where it would actually fill someone in that position very well. I mean, there's several surrounding full-time jobs that have paramedics or advanced, you know, that work 24, 48 hours a week, that are left with 3 or 4 days a week.
But then if they're only available 3 or 4 days a week, that doesn't do Keith a hell of a lot of good if he's looking to have a full-time guy who he can communicate with on a daily basis. If we're hiring somebody who's already working 3 days a week at another job, it
If you maintain Reynold, I mean, I don't see why the chief and the deputy chief can't have a common liaison channel between the fire station and, you know, if you're not eliminating Reynold, and he goes to the town hall 2 or 3 times a day, I mean, you can almost get 6 days a week.
so your proposal would be to say around 30, make sure they have an EMS license, so we have that third person at the station in the event that we need them. on a
EMS or
day-to-day
paramedic?
basis.
If he's, I would recommend a paramedic.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pay the money and you're gonna have someone there,
Because Reynold isn't.
so you either
I
make
thought
Reynold
If they wanted to just say
the
that,
chief,
you know,
or you hire someone
we'll
as a
keep you
paramedic.
24,
Do you need
but you gotta go out and get an
credentials
EMT
beyond being a
license.
paramedic or
I'd probably be
advanced to be a
interested, but
chief,
anything about that.
a license, a certificate or something like that?
I'm probably
Yes,
not gonna do it
but
for
pretty
free.
much, Tom, when you reach
The other thing is that I need.
paramedic status, you've almost achieved.
Because I appointed.
But I mean, there's being paramedics that don't know how to fight fires, right?
So he needs to.
Yeah, I mean, everybody to this day, when they become a paramedic is, if you find a paramedic that's not cross-trained, it's pretty unique.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
They're-
But one thing you need to remember, Jason, is that the only reason Reynolds is a deputy is because I appointed him.
yeah.
He's not hired as a deputy.
No, I understand that fully.
So,
I mean,
I
it
mean,
would be,
yeah. So, I mean, not that I plan on getting rid of him, don't
Yeah,
get me wrong,
yeah.
see, he's my right-hand man, and I would,
Yeah.
but somebody else might not feel that way. So, I mean, it's not like he's hired as a deputy chief. So,
I honestly feel as if the town of Arundel can still fly under the radar when it comes to a full-time chief position. I don't think we're there yet.
I agree with that.
But we
What
have
what
to
I
have
do,
a chief.
what I do agree, 100%.
Yeah, you
What I
have
do agree on is if that person is gonna be there and hired as a chief, the town of Arundel would be foolish not to require an EMS license at that position. If the third person's there, why wouldn't we,
The third person, you mean Reynold, this person, and
yeah.
the per diem.
And the chief. The
What are
30-hour
we
chief.
talking for dollars to the town to go from 31.9 hours to 42? 10,000?
Yeah, you,
15,000?
well, you have to add the benefit
Yeah,
package in.
put the benefit package.
It's
So I
almost
can work up the
20-something
numbers, yeah, it'd be about $24,000.
23,000 difference between 24 and.
I'm sorry.
You think we need 3 people at the fire station?
I do, I mean, we have 3 there now, 24 hours a week.
Right.
But the unfortunate thing is Chief is essentially unavailable in the back of the ambulance. I mean,
Right.
it's,
I can't I can drive,
Yeah.
I can drive and run the pump, but I cannot, I don't have a license anymore.
So, a lot of food for thought. I mean, I don't think we're anywhere near, but, you know, you've given me a lot of other things to contemplate here, in terms of what we should be doing with the position. But I think that's the important, we need to nail that down as to what how we're gonna proceed with this. Status quo, something different, so really give it some thought, and we'll certainly come back to you in regards to that.
The only other thing I would add is, Keith had said originally the full-time chief at like 44 hours. Any chief that I know of, as far as I know, when they're hired at a salary. There is no hours, you put in whatever hours. Usually there's a minimum. The town would say you need to work at least 40 hours over every week. And now you may put in 60 one week and 20 the next, if that's okay with town meeting. But usually it's a salary position, that they'll say, you're the chief, we're gonna pay you, and you put in the hours, you gotta put in at least 40 hours, and then, because when I was chief before in another town, 40 hours was nothing. I mean,
and that would be a question I would have to you, Keith, is, that would be my recommendation, is a base salary on that position.
On that, on
With the
40 hours.
understanding that over and above, let's say he works 3 days a week. I don't know if you could differentiate his salary, so he gets a base salary, and then if there's a fire after hours, if there's a accident after hours, if there's an EMS call after hours, can that money come from, you know, call force or the call company pay versus, I don't know how that would be an administrative, as long as he doesn't exceed 53 hours in.
Right, over 53 hours, then you'd be, it'd be time and a half, so.
Which would be rare in the town of Arundel. I mean, if he's working 32 hours a week or 31 and a half
30
hours
hours
a
or
week,
whatever.
it would be rare to have a chief that would need to come back for 22 hours additional a week. It would be very rare. So I don't think we would ever run into that position.
Okay.
So do we have 3 people there? The days that you're there,
There's
there
3.
there are 2 other people there, so the days that you're there, there are 3 people?
Yeah, there's Randall, who's full-time, the
Yeah.
per diem, and myself, yeah.
Okay, all right.
And then sometimes we have a common hanging around. because-
Yeah, we've had that from time to time, seen some other vehicles out there, and people hanging around, so.
Not as much as they used to, but, because everybody works.
Is there any, yeah, go ahead.
I was just kind of propose one, we just table 1301 for
Absolutely.
tonight.
Let me work up some numbers. I'll look at some other scenarios. I never even thought of Jason's. I can certainly look at that and see what the cost is involved.
My only question, Chief, before you leave, building maintenance, we're maintaining 9,000. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel as if we've pretty much put our hands around that building.
Well, that's what I told Keith, because of the accident, it's pretty well fixed that.
Yeah.
But the only thing I did say to him was that, talking to Randall, and I don't know, you may have noticed too, we've been having trouble with a couple of our doors.
Yeah.
And we really need to do something about even new openers and stuff like that, so I didn't
The
wanna.
openers that work at Arundel's Market, that won't work right.
Right,
at the station.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know personally what it's gonna cost to put new, openers and stuff in. I don't think it's $9,000, but I think there's probably some painting and stuff needs to be on the bays too, so.
It looks like,
So we could cut it back a little bit, but.
Days that built it.
it looks like from 15,
Sorry.
expenses in 2015, 2017, and the expenses to 2018, we're running around that $6,500 range. I mean, we had an anomaly on 2016, and if you remember, that was as a result of that rot that we found and some of the work that we did and the fans that we had to fix and so on and so forth. So,
I don't know
we
what-
could probably cut that back, take 2,000, leave it at 7.
I don't know what we're gonna do with that walkway either, whether that's gonna need to be some work.
Right, the one that's heaved in
Raised
the
up
back.
that much, yeah,
Right.
that's a big
We'll
heave and walkway
let the
up there.
Public Works take care of that in the spring.
So what are you suggesting, Keith, that we cut back
We could go
9,000
back to
7,000?
maybe 7,000.
I don't think that's a problem.
I think based on our past track record and the expenses, we'd be right in the same ballpark, I think, unless we had a huge issue, but I think we can probably take care of the doors with that and maybe get some painting in those bays, get that spruced up a little bit. I know Reno wanted to do something about sealing the floors, but that's an expensive proposition, and my recommendation is if we ever do any expansion of bays at the fire station for additional equipment or whatnot, that would be the time to seal all the bay floors.
I think you noticed, we also kept the training down $3,000 because I just don't have the callman stuff going to training like I used to, so. We've always had plenty of money, so I told Keith that we could cut that back. I mean, obviously, if the call for increases or whatever over the period, we can always increase it.
So Keith, your proposal here, I know we didn't talk about, kind of mentioned it about that position being, instead of an hourly position, would be possibly a salary position. Are you looking at, a salary of, 59, 59?
I think what I'll do is I'll put together various scenarios and cost estimates to them and give them to you all so you can look at them, and I'll break down the salary ranges. Right now, Chief is, I think his hourly rate is like $29.05, and when you look at that rate that we're paying him, to his benefit, he's at the highest part of the rate for fire chief, if at 29. I think that if you hired somebody at 30, I don't think they're gonna be making 29 for us to start with, so my suggestion would be to lower that back to maybe $26 or $27 an hour. So I will recommend various different scales there.
I think the port's off in 25.
25?
25 an hour for a 20-hour week.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I think that's what the port's off. And yes, a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
So, wow, year round. You go crazy in summer.
Anything else right now with the 1301? I mean,
What's the health insurance cost? You got up to 34 grand. I mean, that's,
Well,
Yeah,
That was
that's
because of the
full-time
full-time
chief.
chief, right?
Right.
Yeah.
but it went up, it goes up that much, huh?
right, I
14.
built it in to include the chief's position, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that too. I
Yeah.
said, oh crap.
Yeah.
I think the rest of the budget was pretty much across the board.
So I think the big decisions here will be, what we're gonna do with the status of the position. Okay?
We'll move on to 1303.
Yeah, 1303 is your call company, and right now I have it at 31,975, basing it on 1,600 hours and an average of 1144. I put a range in there from 1069 to 1219. I think some of our call folks that have been with us for a longer period of time, it may be time to give them a little bit more money. The thing that I had left out of this, even last year, was the stipends for we have 2 deputy chiefs, they each get 1,300. We have a captain who gets 900. We have 3 lieutenants that get 450 a year. So that's 4,850 that was not in this budget. It had been taken from this budget, and last year we were close to going, I was wondering why we were so high on expenses. And then I come to find out that's where the stipends for those call officers are coming out of, so. I added that into the budget, so that's why it's at
That's why the
31.
payroll, then it's not added to the
Correct.
payroll line.
That's why it's at 31,975.
I think the other thing that Keith and I had talked about, that if we ended up going with the stipend for the callman, that we might be able to do one right out of the call force money that's already there, running up to about $7,000, depending on the number of calls we have in a year. So you could be able to do that with very little increase, or you could add the extra, put 14 in, for the year. If you don't spend it, it goes back into the general fund anyways, it's an experiment, if you even go that way, so just a thought, that there might not even be an increase to it.
You can see, you know, if you look at the expense detail over the last three or 4 years, and even including this year, in 2015, I think it was 33,323, and I think at that point we had the stipends in there, plus we had a pretty robust, I think, call for us, and then as the years have gone on, it sort of dwindled a little bit, so. But at 14, let me see what we've got now. I just got a new late, I don't know where we are in volunteers right now. We've spent 19, I've got it posted here at 14,571. Right now, we've spent 19,113 of that expense budget for this year. We should be about 50%, we've sent close to 71%, so we're really gonna have to start taking a hard look at that, see what's going on there, but,
That's where the stipends came,
yep.
that we hadn't accounted for.
Is there a reason why the stipends weren't identified before?
I think they've always fallen under that call force department, and I didn't realize that's where they came from. So it was just an error on my part.
I know this is a little different subject, but last year on the fire department's capital equipment budget, I think we cut it back from 50,000 to 25.
Correct.
Have we got any gut feel for what we're gonna be looking for this year?
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, let's finish up with 1303, just so we're not flipping back and forth.
You ready to go?
So Keith, based on what you wanna do with 1301, that really shouldn't have any effect on this, right?
Right. I don't think so, unless we wanna really try an aggressive mode on the, on committing some sort of stipend package to some of these. I think before we do that, we'd wanna try to inquire to see how many call personnel may think that $20 in their pocket to stay in town for the event that they may get called may be an incentive for them. $20 wouldn't incentivize me to stick around.
That was just a figure that I grabbed, an easy figure, and I have no idea what a good figure would be.
The other
So-
problem with that kind of a deal is you pay a guy for this stipend for a month, because when you pay him even though you didn't need him, and then 5 weeks into it, you need him, and he doesn't show up.
Right. And then what do you do?
Then what do you do? It doesn't sound like a very good scheme for me.
That's fine, it was just an option.
It's an idea, and it helps sometimes stimulate other ideas. I certainly appreciate the,
Who sets the stipends to?
It's pretty much, those have been stipends that have just been, I just followed what was there before. So,
You know how they got set in the first place?
I don't.
Okay.
Probably weren't set by the board if you're asking the question.
I don't, never saw them before.
I know they've been paid.
Yeah.
so is everybody okay with the stipends? If they are, we'll make a motion. We can approve 1303 for 31,975.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve 3103 volunteer call company tentatively for 31,975. All those in favor?
A little discussion before.
Yeah.
Before the vote or just after the vote?
You forgot to ask for discussion.
Before the vote,
Okay.
yeah.
No, strictly, yes or no.
I mean, my only issue with it is with the full-time salary. I mean, Reynolds making $50,000 a year as an appointed deputy. I understand it's an appointed position.
Right.
But, I mean, is he doing that much over and above that warrants $1,300 more?
He comes back a lot.
Yeah, but he gets paid to come back.
I don't know if he gets paid every time he comes back. That's just it, I don't think he puts in for everything, or it is overtime that can be. It would be very hard to How do you ask a guy to be a deputy chief and pay one guy and not the other? That's the way I look at it. I mean, I think he puts in enough time to.
Well, with that argument, Randall and I are the same exact license level. Randall makes $50,000 a year. I make $15.60 an hour.
$15 an hour, right? But you wanna be a deputy chief?
So,
Been there, done that, no thank you.
so your
actually makes
argument
cheap, right?
is whether or not he.
He should get it because
Yeah, okay.
he's full-time.
Well, I
I
mean,
have
it
to
just
look at
seems,
that a little bit more.
it just
Yeah.
seems weird that,
Yeah.
And is that stipend for that extra that he does come back, rather than us having to pay him overtime? Is that how it works out?
I have to look at it more,
We can
how
look
it
at
was
that.
set up. With Tom's inquiry, I think I'm gonna have to take a good hard look at it right now, as to the creation of this. This could have been created because of the volunteer call company
I
at some
think
point.
it was. I
Yeah,
think this was
Responsibilities
implemented back
that were
when,
Right.
imposed
Norman
upon
Boyson
them.
I'm assuming, right.
yeah.
You know, and if you go to 30 hours with a chief, you may wanna use some of the stipends here to
Right.
cover that chief cost too. So, it's all in the air.
So this number could go down by
Right.
13 or 2,600 bucks.
Right.
So this is just a preliminary vote.
Or 5,000, really, Dan, I mean,
Right.
the stipends in general to me seem,
For all the others also,
Yeah.
right?
these guys are getting paid to come back to these calls.
Yeah.
And maybe this
The only
is
thing
for
is,
when they weren't.
the reason that the stipends are there is because they technically have additional duties to a truck. Lieutenants are supposed to be handling the truck stuff.
Most of these officers are per diem guys. They're doing them when they're on per diem shift, so they're getting paid to do it anyway.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Ah, gotcha.
Okay. So it may be something that we can eliminate. Okay.
Okay, well, we have a motion and a second for 31,975. If it goes down, I'm sure no one would have a problem with
I don't
that.
think you guys will.
I think the max would be 31
So for a tentative approval of 31,975, not expecting anything to go over and above on that line. All those in favor? All those opposed? There are none.
I mean, with that said, chief, you don't get a stipend when you come back, right? Yeah.
I don't. I just figured it's part of my job.
Well,
I think it was, these guys took on the extra responsibility. I thought it was just something that they gave them because it goes with the position. But you take the stipends away, maybe they won't be an officer.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna resign as deputy chief if I don't get my $1,300.
Yeah, well, so be it, I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you will need a full-time chief.
Yeah.
Really.
You got 5 extra grand to get.
Yeah, there you go. You can raise the money.
All right, move on to 1304 firefighter EMT per diem.
Yeah, what I did here was kept the hour level the same, 1,600 hours. I increased the hourly rate by 50 cents an hour, and I have a blended rate now of $16.37, which once you put all of the math together, comes out with a final cost of $290,879. Again, we're anticipating collection of revenue of about $124,000 from ambulance billing that directly goes to the fire. We collect it as revenue, but you can make the argument it comes from the fire service.
And as the chief says, though, we're getting more paramedic participation, does your blended rate hold?
So far, it's holding.
Okay.
You know, I thought the same thing, and I started looking at that in terms of, right now, we're at 48.65% of the pay. And we should be about 50, so we're just running a little lower, so we're holding right now, so.
Any discussion on 1304?
Motion to approve 1304 or 290, 879.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Moved on seconds. All those in favor of 1304 firefighter EMT per diem for 298.79 in favor? All opposed, there are none. Motion passes.
Gets through town meeting, Jake, you get a raise.
Technically, I probably should have abstained from all that voting, but
I don't think it matters.
And then we move on to 2301.
Yeah, last year, I don't think we put any money into the capital reserve for the fire department. We cut 25,000. You remember correctly.
Then we cut it from 50,000 to 25,000.
I think we cut it all out. I don't remember putting any money there.
I thought we put 25.
I thought it was the
And the $25,000 was supposed to be budgeted.
I'll have to look at the town report. I'll tell you in a minute.
109 in there now.
we're sitting pretty on TIF money, right?
4,800 bucks.
So Chief, what's your plan for capital equipment?
I put engine 301 on the top. I also put in for a trailer to haul the UTV, but that's been taken care of because of the grant that we received. So that's kind of gone by the wayside. We still need to do something about the generator at the fire station. And our extra casing tool has got to the point where we should probably start thinking about upgrading those.
We done it?
And then the fifth thing I had on my list was to replace engine 303 and 312. Get rid of those two and replace it with one.
We don't have that.
No,
You didn't get that?
no.
Oh, I checked that.
No, I don't have anything.
I apologize, I thought I sent that to Keith. Apparently I didn't. It shouldn't be that much off from last year's.
So right now you have 109.
Got 109 in there.
If we stay with 25, it would give you, you know, I think the larger question you're gonna have here, especially on our larger equipment, is I don't think we're ever gonna achieve the amount of money in the capital reserve that we're going to need at some point to replace fire engines. I think we're gonna be at a point where when we do those large ticket items, that we're gonna have to do a lease purchase of those items when the time comes, because even though you're putting 25,000 aside, which is beneficial for some of our
20.
larger,
20 years won't even cover it.
right,
Should probably kick it back up to 50 if you can. But I don't know if you can.
right. You just, you know, the money's just not gonna be there. I think that's a fundamental decision that the board's gonna have to make in terms of how you wanna deal with those large, because you're talking, it's not like public works equipment. You know, an engine now is what?
500,000, yeah.
Yeah,
Or half a million.
so you're looking at $500,000 for a brand new fire engine, so.
Yeah, I'm not sure 25,000 a year would make a annual payment either. I don't know, I don't look at it. It depends on how long you want to try to lease purchase it.
Did we ever get a final figure on the CMP TIF as far as an annual disbursement?
It's about 26, isn't it? 23?
Yeah,
26?
somewhere in that neighborhood.
And that was 20 years, 30 years? How long did that go?
You're asking me, and I don't remember it off the top of my head, I have to look at it again. But there are certain things that we can use it for, and so we need to look at those again. And in terms of, I'll put all that paperwork together and send it to you all so you have it.
Yeah, I'd like to see,
I seem to remember 25.
You want a capital plan?
Fire department.
Okay.
We have a capital plan for the
Yeah,
public.
I'm sorry, I
We should have it
thought I
for
sent,
the-
I have it, I'm looking right at it, I just can't print it off. I thought I sent it to Keith with an explanation each one, but
You may have.
I could have sworn I sent it to you.
I thought I saw something somewhere, but
Because I had to change things
Well,
around.
we'll-
That's all right, I can update it, because we
I
already,
think we'll chat
I'll
about
take-
it later.
I'll
We'll
take the
put
trailer
list
off,
together.
because
I
we already
wanna-
got a trailer.
Like you have
done.
zero here.
Right,
Yeah,
I have 0 there right now. Yeah, because my assumption was it was 0 last year, so I left it, but it was 25. So, Yeah, let me look at that again, I'm sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, and.
I'll fire you off a capital improvement list.
Yeah,
I've got it
obviously
right here,
that-
so.
Whatever, I'm not sure if any of the TIF money can be applied, I
Right.
know that there was certain, but that ought to be planned.
There are,
What we're gonna do
there are
with the rest of
certain,
that
there are
TIF
certain
money.
restrictions to it,
Right,
in terms of what it can be used for.
Chief, what were you gonna propose this year for capital improvement amount?
I wanted to go back up to 50.
You wanted to go back up to 50?
Yeah, because I don't think 25 is gonna do it, but, I mean, if you're looking to financing, then, I mean, to me, it doesn't have to be as much. I need to sit down, or I'd have to talk to Keith to see if we did a lease purchase, what it's gonna cost. I don't know if 25,000 a year is gonna be enough on the lease purchase.
Well, I don't think we're ready to buy an engine,
No,
but
but I'm
my
just
thought
saying.
is that,
If you put it away, it's that way every year. When you get ready, you don't have to increase it, it's all. will
right,
fall
they need
in.
to have a good down payment and
Correct,
everything.
so.
But, I mean, we talked about SCBA's are gonna have to be replaced, they're $7,100 a piece. I think, you know, we need to chat about that, because I think we got too many. I think we've reduced the amount that we have, and sort of streamline that, so we don't have to spend as much. But, that's an item that should be purchased all at the same time, correct? If you're gonna buy 12 items, it should be all of them at the same time, so.
Well, the other thing you can look at is, I mean, I don't know when the board is thinking about purchasing, the engine to replace the oldest one, but you can also incorporate buying air packs with that, and that whole thing under the lease purchase. I mean, you can go out and buy, you know,
Yep.
with a truck, you can buy 8 air packs with it, and that'll help. It'll all be part of the big financing package, you won't be buying it separate, you know, it's just.
I mean, the board doesn't know when to buy that, because we're waiting on
Right,
what you're,
right,
what,
no,
you know,
well,
what you suggest and what
yeah,
you
no.
have for equipment,
No.
so.
You know, 301 is ready to go.
We'll give
We
you,
know that,
we'll
but
give you a capital.
Yeah, we'll come up with an idea for you, absolutely.
Because I know with the SCBA's, years ago, they got a grant, so they bought all brand new ones.
Yep.
And then, of course, that started coming all along, we need to replace all of them. And, I remember I was on the budget board at that time. I've been on for the last 14 years,
Yeah.
crazy bastard. Anyways,
No, it's good, that's consistent.
you know, I tried to instill on them, let's start rotating instead of having to have
Big
a
expense.
huge expense all at once. And that's something that they were supposed to have been doing.
Well, Keith and I actually talked about it, of incorporating it into the regular budget. The problem is, like I said, one is $7,100, so if you buy 3, you gotta increase the budget 21,000. I mean, is that what you guys wanna do over the next 6 years, because we got 18, or even if we buy 15, or do you wanna try to go out and buy them all at once? I mean, they're not cheap, so those are the problems with it we run into. It depends on whether, you know, but we, like I said, I
I
can
just
come
soon
up
put
with.
the money aside and buy them all at once when the time is appropriate to buy them. When NFPA tells us that they need to be, what is it, 2 cycles?
2 cycles is what,
What NFPA's
yeah.
garden rule is.
But I can't, I did some research to see what the Bureau of Labor Standards said, and I can't find anything under the Bureau of Labor Standards in Maine that says you have to replace them, like turnout gear, they want you to replace it every 10 years. But I can't find anything under the Bureau of Labor Standards. The problem is that NFPA stipulates a lot of this stuff, and Maine is half and half. They're half NFPA and they're half not. Certain things they follow, and anything that usually does with firefighter safety, like turnout gear, air packs, they follow the NFPA standard, which just means we have to buy more stuff more often, but not all of it falls under it. And I'm trying to get a ruling to see, because, it's like I was telling Keith the other day, we need to start replacing our air packs, but if they still pass the test every year, then I don't see why we have to run right out and do it. Maybe we can, you know, buy a little time, and I can come back and say, look, we need to replace these, do you guys wanna wait and do it all at once, so you're gonna try to, you know, do 2 a year, or, I mean, and how many do we really need? That's the other thing. But, like I said, I had the capital thing here, but I'll redo one, because I had the trailer on here for the UTV, and we got a grant for that, so that's all taken care of, so I can update this. Like I said, I thought I sent this over to
So in regards to the fire department capital reserve,
I think we table it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It needs to be
Let's see,
tabled.
let's see what they have, and then, the chief has, and we can decide.
We need a
whether we
motion
keep it
to-
25.
No,
Just table
we'll
it.
just table it, I've noted it.
So under 1301, the 15,000 for tools and minor equipment, will you give us a breakdown on what that money's going to too?
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
think I've got that. The tools and minor equipment, it'd be like, fire equipment such as axes, whistles, floaters, strainers, turnout gear has been used in that. What's the number on that? So-
16,000. Oh, the exact, I don't know what the
Is
line
it,
item is.
it's operating expenses, or is it,
Yeah,
It's 1301,
Operating
Rescue
supplies.
says 16,000,
Supplies.
tools and equipment says
Operating
15,000.
supplies.
That's
Operating
what we-
supplies is 18,000.
hoods, this year they bought hoods, 6 new hoods, PVC hose from Admiral Fire. They bought rescue suits.
Good times water rescue.
Yep. UHF mobile radio brackets, that must have been for the ATV.
Oh, it's probably good bit for the brush truck, too.
Tool supplies,
And then you get tools and minor equipment for 15,000.
Yeah.
I think that's what you were asking for, Jason.
Right,
Tools.
yeah.
Yeah,
What was he reading
15,000.
off?
Yeah,
Yeah, what's that 15,000 for tools and minor?
tools and
equipment?
minor equipment.
I can do that.
Okay, since we, the fire department into basically tabling most things still.
yeah, I think we're all set for now. Yep.
Not most, half, at 50/50.
Yeah.
50/50.
Thank you very much, Chief.
Oh, no problem, thank you.
See you again very shortly.
Absolutely.
We had the budget review on the general assistance budget, 1801. Right now, I'm proposing 83,692. Last year it was 86,029, so it's down slightly. This includes the salary adjustments. The only difference I made was the direct aid under welfare. It went from 15,000 to 12,000. You can see what we've been tracking over the last many years. I still think that we're putting a little bit too much money aside, even though we're obligated and required by law to pay it regardless, but our history is telling us that we should be okay with 12. So, and that was the only changes I made there.
And what we don't spend, does that go into the,
It does not.
does not?
It goes back into fund balance.
Yeah.
It doesn't go to capital reserve fund, no.
No.
It's fund balance, yep. It lapses, yep.
I'll make a motion, we accept the 1801 at 83,692. Tentatively.
I'll second that.
All right, we got a motion made and seconded for 1801 general assistance for 83,692. All those in favor?
Nope, not gonna discuss that one, neither. We're just gonna vote on it.
Unless you have any questions, Jason?
Yeah. Yeah.
You need general assistance? Because I know as a contractor, you're not
Billy
making
is
as
trying to
much.
start it, and he waits until it's already been moved.
He does,
But he's
that.
like, wait a minute, let's talk about it.
Yeah, that gets us to the end of this. What do you want to do on the 13th?
Is a
I've
week
got-
enough gonna be enough time? to
Who's
do
not
stuff
gonna be
with
here
fire
on the 13th?
Let me look into that. I don't know if we'll be, I'd like to say
I'll
we
be
would
here.
be. But the 13th, I figured that we'd do the 1400 series, get that done. And then go back up and get the 1100 series, the 1104 series, the professional services that we left. And do the 1200 series. Town hall, operations, planner, CEO, and administration. Get them all done.
So what are we doing? Did you say so?
We'll
Besides
do
the
the,
1200? What else
11,
did you
12s,
say?
and 1400s.
right,
1104.
1104, all the 1200s, and all the 1400s.
Okay. And this is the 13th.
And that will basically give you your first blush of everything.
I
with the
can't be here
exception-
next week.
Yeah, I know.
So all discussion can happen before the motion next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just trying, yeah.
When's our next meeting after the 13th?
You wanna stay on the Tuesdays,
Yeah, so we're gonna go to 20th?
20th, or the, it's fine with me.
Yeah, I won't be here the 20th.
Me either.
Yeah, I think
That's why,
plan to skip the 20th.
Oh, because it's
right,
what we
that's why
can
we
tweak.
did,
Yeah.
that's why we did today, tonight.
All right, so
The
let me
27th?
get my calendar out, excuse me for a minute.
What is it, the
We're technically
27th?
challenged.
It's a meeting for us anyway, right, the 26th, that's the 4th, yeah.
Right, that'd be the same.
So
So
it'll
that'd
be
be
the
the same week.
27th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go the 13th and the 27th?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. On the 27th, then, I'll begin to put together some town meeting warrant articles in the way that they would be presented generally. So we'll have that on the 27th as well.
Then also the firefighter.
Yeah, we'll wrap up the fire service, we'll have some recommendations for you to look at and decide what you wanna do. I'll break those down as we discussed tonight.
Police, and you still wanna do the health thing, right? Health care.
Yeah, I need you guys to weigh in on that. If it's something you're gonna support or not support. If you're not gonna get the support, then I'll scrap it, but I'd like to try to at least make the argument.
30 hours a week.
Anything else? Jason, you have anything?
Thank you for asking, but I know, I think we, pretty much covered
He's
everything.
gonna wait till there's at least a first, so I didn't do the adjournment.
Yeah.
You think I'm gonna interrupt the adjournment? Are you crazy?
He's the
I don't
one
know.
who makes the motion. He and Dan fight to make a motion to adjourn.
I do have a question on the general.
Oh, boy, oh, boy.
On the what?
On the general fund, what did we spend, 600,000? Yeah, we went down from, you know,
Oh, that's a general sweeper
Yeah,
fund. That's,
yeah.
taxes come in, payments go out. That's just our sweep account for our, yeah. So,
Paying the bills.
yeah, that's just paying the bills, man.
That's the account they pretty much audit, right, Keith? That's the one that they wanna see, like,
They always look at that one, but they look at all of them pretty hard now, yeah.
when do you think school will be, like March? Is that a late,
What's that?
the school budget?
So sad.
We're starting on tomorrow.
I hear a first and a
7
second on a motion to
Yes.
adjourn.
Second,
Any
shuffle.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry, beat you to it.
yeah, we're starting on it tomorrow.
All those in favor?
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much,
And
everyone.
back for meeting tomorrow and Thursday morning, 7 o'clock, 8 yes.
Be safe tomorrow.
Well, I got
And
a
we're
phone
planning
call
7
from
to
our
10,
chief
so
during the
hopefully it
meeting,
won't
so
start snowing till after 10
that was in
o'clock.
regards to, tomorrow.
School?
Yeah.
Tomorrow, like, start early hours, or
Early out.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, they're actually smart. Wednesday's usually late start. They're
yeah,
gonna be starting at the regular time,
yeah.
and then